Did Meghan Markle really steal recipes from celebrity chef Cory Vitiello? And what Netflix doesn't want you to see about her upcoming holiday cooking special? From the very first moment you hear the title "With Love, Meghan, Holiday Celebration," you might think it's a heartwarming, festive feast of love, laughter, and culinary delight. But behind the glossy camera angles and perfectly curated gingerbread houses, a storm has been brewing. One that could shake not only Meghan's carefully constructed image, but also the glittering reputation of Netflix's star-studded holiday lineup. This isn't just about a cooking show. This is about betrayal, creative theft, and a simmering scandal that threatens to spill over just days before the premiere. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Cory Vitiello has spent years carving his name into the culinary world. A chef known for his precision, creativity, and a flair that blends classic techniques with modern tastes, Cory built his brand from the ground up. His recipes have been celebrated in magazines, on television, and across digital platforms. He has spent countless hours in the kitchen, testing, tweaking, and perfecting his creations so that every flavor, every texture, and every presentation is flawless. To say he's protective of his work is an understatement. Imagine pouring your heart into something for months, only to find it being used, adapted, or even outright copied by someone else who takes the credit. For Cory, it wasn't just a professional violation, it was personal. And then came Meghan Markle, known to the world as the Duchess of Sussex, or at least, until the complexities of royal protocol forced her into a gray area of public perception. She has been transitioning from royal engagements to Hollywood productions, media appearances, and now culinary ventures. Netflix's With Love, Meghan series promised a cozy, feel-good experience, festive recipes, charming anecdotes, and glimpses into Meghan's life post-royal palace. But the reality behind the cameras is far from the Instagram-perfect snowflake imagery. Rumors started circulating that recipes Cory had developed, and even teased on social media, were suspiciously similar to those appearing in Meghan's upcoming holiday special. Recipes for decadent chocolate tarts, rich spiced breads, and intricate holiday cookies seemed to leap from Cory's kitchen to Meghan's production set almost overnight. Some may brush it off as coincidence, but those who know Cory, and the culinary world at large, understand that the overlap was too precise to ignore. These weren't generic recipes anyone could whip up in an afternoon. Each dish carries a signature, a personal touch, and a technique that marks it unmistakably as Cory's creation. Culinary theft is rarely talked about outside the restaurant industry, but when it happens, it can devastate a chef's credibility, financial standing, and creative confidence. And that's exactly what Cory feared. The timing couldn't be worse. Netflix scheduled the premiere of With Love, Meghan, Holiday Celebration for December 3rd, the perfect window to capture holiday viewers seeking festive comfort. But behind the promotional fanfare and glossy social media teasers, the alleged theft has ignited tension, not just in the kitchen but across social media, celebrity circles, and industry insiders. Leaks from staff, screenshots of emails, and insider accounts suggest that Cory confronted Meghan's production team, only to encounter denial, deflection, and strategic silence. And as these details began leaking to the public, the brewing controversy took on a life of its own. Why does this story matter to you? On the surface, it may seem like a dispute over cookies, tarts, or holiday desserts. But it touches on bigger themes that resonate far beyond the kitchen. It's about trust and betrayal. It's about the blurry line between fame and integrity, influence and accountability. It's about the power dynamics in celebrity culture. When someone with royal connections, media access, and a massive platform takes something without acknowledgement, what happens to the person whose creativity was stolen? How does the public perceive them? How does the media spin the narrative? And more importantly, what can ordinary viewers, aspiring chefs, or fans of cooking shows learn from this unfolding drama? The controversy has already begun to impact social media discussions. Fans of Cory, loyalists to Meghan, and casual viewers alike have taken to Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, debating, sharing memes, and speculating on the behind-the-scenes conflicts. Some have expressed outrage on behalf of Cory, arguing that Meghan's actions, if true, represent a disregard for creative property. Others have defended her, citing the collaborative nature of television production, where multiple contributors shape a show's content. But the closer you look, the murkier the waters become. Screenshots appear to show emails from production assistants forwarding Cory's recipes as inspiration for the holiday special. Staff members who worked on the show have hinted at tension in the kitchen, describing scenes where cooks were frustrated, edits were made without explanation, and certain dishes mysteriously appeared in Meghan's scripts almost word for word from Cory's prior work. This is where the story takes a twist. It's not just about recipes. It's about power, influence, and the mechanisms behind a multi-million-dollar production. Netflix, as the platform distributing the show, has an investment in its star's public image. The network has marketed Meghan as the charming, warm hostess who brings the magic of the holidays into every home. Any scandal could jeopardize viewership, subscriptions, and the brand's credibility. Meanwhile, Cory is navigating the delicate position of publicly accusing a figure with global reach, risking backlash, media scrutiny, and potential legal complexities. How do you balance standing up for your work while facing someone with massive resources and influence? Imagine the first time Cory realized something was off. A familiar dish on a trailer. A signature technique in a cooking demo. A recipe that he had shared weeks earlier now appearing as a new creation on a glossy Netflix set. The shock, disbelief, and simmering anger are palpable, and it raises a fundamental question for viewers. In the age of celebrity culture, who protects originality? Who ensures that hard work, late nights, and creative thought are respected? And when those boundaries are crossed, what is the appropriate response? This story also challenges our perception of Meghan Markle. For years, she has been a figure of fascination, royalty turned Hollywood personality, humanitarian, influencer, and now, culinary star. Public opinion has swung wildly, from admiration to skepticism, from adoration to outright criticism. And while many have defended her projects, claiming that she brings warmth and accessibility to her shows, the allegations of recipe theft threaten to puncture that carefully curated image. Could a simple holiday special, meant to delight viewers, become the flashpoint of a public scandal? Could a few pages of recipes, once thought trivial, now carry the weight of reputations, credibility, and personal trust? As the premiere date of December 3rd approaches, tension is building. Industry insiders whisper about potential legal correspondence, leaked internal documents, and the strategic positioning of both Cory and Meghan. Social media is primed for explosive engagement, and the narrative is shifting daily. And the question on everyone's mind is this: will viewers see a festive culinary journey or the shadow of a brewing scandal? Will Netflix handle the fallout discreetly, or will the story spiral into a full-blown media frenzy? The drama is not confined to the kitchen. It spills into the realm of celebrity power dynamics, media coverage, and audience perception. It raises ethical questions. When someone with a powerful platform allegedly uses another person's creative work, what accountability exists? What is the responsibility of media organizations, production companies, and audiences in ensuring fairness? And for those watching from home, it provides a cautionary tale about the fragile balance between fame, influence, and integrity. By now, you're probably wondering, what evidence exists? How did Cory discover the theft? What were the exact recipes in question, and how did they appear on the show? Who else was involved behind the scenes? And most importantly, what happens next? These questions will guide us through the next hour as we peel back the layers of this unfolding drama, reveal insider accounts, and examine the story behind with love, Meghan, holiday celebration. The stage is set. The players are in position. The evidence is simmering just beneath the surface, waiting for the world to see. And one final thought before we dive deeper. This is more than a story about recipes. It's a story about trust, betrayal, creativity, and the lengths people will go to protect or exploit them. Did you ever wonder what it takes to become a celebrated chef in today's cutthroat culinary world? It's not just about having a flair for flavors or a knack for presentation. It's long nights, countless mistakes, endless taste tests, and the kind of obsessive dedication that keeps you awake thinking about the perfect balance between acidity and sweetness. For Cory Vitiello, this was more than a career. It was a calling, a passion that shaped every waking moment of his life. And it's this very passion that, according to insiders, made the alleged theft of his recipes by Meghan Markle feel like a betrayal of the highest order. Cory wasn't born into the world of celebrity kitchens. His journey began in modest settings, where he learned the fundamentals of cooking and the discipline required to succeed. Early in his career, he worked under some of Canada's most renowned chefs, absorbing techniques, flavor combinations, and the subtle artistry that separates a professional chef from someone who merely follows a recipe. He moved swiftly through the ranks, proving himself not only capable but inventive. His signature dishes, carefully balanced, technically precise, and emotionally resonant, started earning him attention in culinary circles. Food magazines featured his work, television producers began reaching out, and soon, he became a name that commands respect in kitchens and dining rooms alike. But it wasn't just the accolades that defined him, it was the philosophy behind his cooking. Cory believed that a dish should tell a story, that every ingredient has a voice, and that the act of cooking is as much about emotional resonance as it is about taste. A holiday dessert wasn't just a sugar-laden treat. It was a memory, a connection, a piece of joy shared with family and friends. Every chocolate tart, every spiced cookie, every festive pie had hours of thought, experimentation, and personal refinement behind it. And in an industry where creativity is currency, that dedication matters. It's important to understand the scale of what Cory was offering. Unlike home cooks who might tweak a recipe from a blog or a cookbook, Cory's creations are original intellectual property. In culinary terms, this means a unique combination of flavors, a signature preparation method, and a distinct presentation style. Think of it like this. Imagine painting a masterpiece and then discovering someone hung a nearly identical version in a gallery, claiming it as their own. The anger, the sense of violation, the helplessness, it's all there. And according to insiders, this is precisely what Cory felt when he began noticing similarities between his holiday recipes and those appearing in Meghan Markle's upcoming Netflix special. Before the controversy erupted, Cory's holiday recipes were celebrated widely. His chocolate peppermint torte, for instance, wasn't just another dessert. It was a festival of flavor, a delicate layering of textures, a careful orchestration of bitter, sweet, and festive spice. Food critics raved about it. Fans shared photos online, praising both taste and presentation. Yet, when Meghan's team released previews of her holiday cooking special, those same flavor profiles appeared strikingly similar. The layering of chocolate and peppermint, the choice of spices, even certain decorative touches mirrored Cory's earlier creations almost perfectly. It was more than coincidence. Cory first noticed subtle overlaps in social media posts, someone tagging him in a photo of a dish that looked suspiciously like one of his own. Then came an email from an industry friend. A screenshot showing that a recipe Cory had shared with select culinary colleagues had ended up in a production draft for Meghan's Netflix special. That's when alarm bells went off. Suddenly, Cory's passion, his personal creative labor, and his professional reputation were potentially being misappropriated, repackaged, and presented to millions of viewers without acknowledgement. For Cory, the betrayal cut deep. The culinary world is fiercely competitive, and recognition matters. When someone else takes credit for your work, especially someone with Meghan Markle's public profile, the impact can be devastating. It's not just the loss of personal satisfaction. There's also potential financial harm. Culinary projects, endorsements, and professional opportunities can hinge on originality and public perception. Cory understood that the alleged theft could affect his brand, his credibility, and his future projects. But Cory didn't act impulsively. He's a measured, thoughtful chef who understands the stakes. According to sources close to him, he spent days gathering evidence, comparing his recipes with the dishes showcased in Meghan's previews, and documenting every similarity. He reached out to colleagues, asking if anyone else noticed the parallels. It was a methodical process, one that ensured he could present a clear, undeniable case should it come to confrontation. And when he finally raised his concerns with Meghan's production team, what he encountered was a mixture of denial, obfuscation, and silence, a cocktail that only intensified his frustration and sense of injustice. The emotional toll on Cory was immense. Chefs pour themselves into their work, often sacrificing personal time, social connections, and even their own health for the sake of creating culinary art. For someone like Cory, seeing elements of his labor reproduced without credit isn't just infuriating. It's a personal wound. It strikes at the core of identity. Who are you if the world attributes your creations to someone else? And in an era where social media amplifies every claim, every accusation, the potential for public misperception is enormous. Cory's network of culinary professionals quickly rallied around him. Friends and colleagues expressed outrage at the alleged appropriation. Some were astonished that a figure like Meghan, with access to multiple professional chefs and consultants, would allegedly use another chef's recipes so blatantly. Others speculated on the motivations behind it. Was it convenience, oversight, or a calculated decision by production to rely on tried-and-true recipes for guaranteed audience satisfaction? No one knew for sure, and that uncertainty only fueled speculation and gossip, both online and in industry circles. Meanwhile, the timing of the alleged theft was critical. December 3rd loomed as the premiere date for With Love, Meghan holiday celebration. Netflix had invested heavily in marketing, teasers, interviews, social media campaigns, and collaborations with lifestyle influencers. Every recipe, every festive decoration, and every filmed segment contributed to the perception of authenticity. For Cory, realizing that his work might serve as the foundation of this highly visible project, without acknowledgement, brought the stakes into sharp focus. It was no longer a professional annoyance. It had become a high-profile, publicized issue with potential repercussions far beyond the kitchen. This chapter of Cory's life sets the stage for the drama to come. It's a story of hard work, dedication, betrayal, and the challenge of navigating a world where fame and influence can sometimes overshadow creativity and fairness. And while Cory's journey as a chef has always been about flavor, technique, and emotional storytelling through food, it is now entangled with a controversy that reaches into celebrity culture, media, and audience perception. But just as the storm was gathering, a critical development occurred. One that would escalate the situation beyond anything Cory could have anticipated. A private message, allegedly sent by a member of Meghan's production team, appeared in Cory's inbox. Its contents hinted not just at awareness of the similarities, but at a deliberate choice to use his work. The message was vague, almost casual, yet loaded with implications. It was the spark that would ignite a series of confrontations, public statements, and behind-the-scenes maneuvers that no one could ignore. And that, as they say, was only the beginning. What Cory discovered next, evidence that would shock even the most seasoned insiders, would set in motion a chain of events leading directly to the Netflix premiere and the worldwide scrutiny that followed. The chef who had quietly built his career through precision and passion was now at the center of a public scandal, one involving royalty, celebrity, and a dispute over recipes that had become a symbol of trust, ownership, and creative integrity. When most people hear the words Meghan Markle and cooking in the same sentence, the image that probably comes to mind is a warm, polished, picture-perfect scene. A royal-turned-Hollywood star smiling in a cozy kitchen, whisk in hand, a perfectly frosted cookie in the other, while snow gently falls outside the window. But behind the glossy facade of With Love, Meghan holiday celebration, there's a far more complex story. One that involves ambition, reinvention, and, according to insiders, tension, appropriation, and a brewing culinary scandal that has sent ripples through both celebrity and culinary circles. Meghan's move into the world of cooking didn't happen overnight. After stepping back from royal duties, she embarked on a path that blended lifestyle branding, media appearances, and production deals with Netflix. Her With Love, Meghan series was presented as a heartwarming, family-friendly collection of episodes celebrating seasonal recipes, intimate moments, and the joy of home cooking. The holiday special promised indulgent desserts, festive drinks, and cozy decor tips, all the ingredients for a feel-good viewing experience. To her fans, Meghan represented authenticity and relatability. She wasn't just a former duchess. She was a woman who had done it all and was now inviting viewers into her private world. But critics were quick to point out a growing gap between perception and reality. Could someone who had spent so much of her life in highly orchestrated, media-managed environments genuinely translate that into the craft of cooking? Could she go beyond the appearance of domesticity to actually create the recipes she presented on screen? And more importantly, could she do so without stepping on someone else's creative work? It was in this context that Cory Vitiello's involvement, or alleged involvement, from Meghan's perspective, began to take shape. According to sources, Meghan's production team had been researching popular holiday recipes, testing dishes, and consulting various culinary professionals to ensure the special would appeal to the broadest possible audience. On the surface, this is standard practice. Television shows often use multiple advisors, borrow inspiration, and adapt recipes to fit on-screen aesthetics. But the line between inspiration and outright duplication is thin, and insiders suggest that in this case, it may have been crossed. Those familiar with the production process describe a fast-paced, high-pressure environment. Staff had tight deadlines to produce episodes that were visually stunning and emotionally engaging. The holiday special wasn't just about food. It was about storytelling, branding, and spectacle. Every cookie, tart, and centerpiece had to align with the show's curated aesthetic while appealing to millions of viewers. In such an environment, shortcuts, intentional or accidental, can happen. But what makes this situation particularly noteworthy, according to insiders, is the alleged similarity between Cory's meticulously crafted recipes and those showcased in Meghan's special. Meghan herself is no stranger to reinvention. From her early acting days to her marriage into the royal family, she has consistently navigated worlds where image, perception, and control of narrative are paramount. Her venture into cooking could be seen as another form of this reinvention, transforming her public persona from royal observer to accessible lifestyle influencer. But the controversy surrounding Cory's recipes suggests that ambition and image management may have overridden the foundational element of culinary integrity: originality. It's crucial to consider the mindset that a celebrity like Meghan might bring into a project of this scale. She is surrounded by teams of assistants, advisors, and consultants who filter her decisions, pitch ideas, and manage execution. In a high-pressure production environment, decisions are often delegated, and the final creative product can be a collaborative, but sometimes convoluted, result. Yet according to Cory and insiders, the collaboration, in this case, appeared to cross a line, veering from inspiration into replication. A dish that had been shared with a select few culinary colleagues ended up almost verbatim in a Netflix special, with only minor tweaks for on-screen presentation. The question arises, did Meghan personally engage with these recipes, or was she relying entirely on her production team's choices? Some insiders suggest she was hands-on, actively involved in kitchen scenes, sampling dishes, and appearing to guide the cooking process. Others argue that her involvement was largely performative, designed to give viewers the sense of authenticity, while the production team managed the technical and creative details behind the scenes. Either way, the end result has caused a stir. Recipes that appear in the show bear an uncanny resemblance to Cory's original creations, raising eyebrows among both culinary professionals and fans of the show. Adding another layer of drama is Meghan's public persona. She is celebrated for her polished image, elegance, and careful attention to branding. But in a culinary setting, authenticity matters more than image. A chef's credibility is built on originality, taste, and technique, not on the ability to appear charming on camera. When allegations of copying emerge, it threatens not just professional integrity, but public perception. Meghan, in this scenario, finds herself in a precarious position, one that challenges her carefully curated image as a relatable, trustworthy figure. The pressure intensifies when considering the platform, Netflix. As one of the largest streaming services in the world, Netflix has a vested interest in maintaining the credibility of its stars and content. Every episode of With Love, Meghan contributes to a broader strategy of engagement, brand reinforcement, and subscriber retention. Any scandal, especially one involving creative appropriation, could impact viewership and damage the network's reputation. According to insiders, Netflix executives were aware of potential risks but chose to proceed with production, possibly assuming that any controversy could be managed post-premiere through PR strategies. Meanwhile, Cory watched the unfolding production with growing unease. According to sources, he reached out discreetly at first, asking for clarification and hoping for an amicable resolution. But the response, or lack thereof, only heightened his frustration. Emails went unanswered, calls were deferred, and in the absence of acknowledgement, the situation escalated. It became clear that this was no simple misunderstanding. It was a high-stakes confrontation waiting to happen, set against the backdrop of a carefully produced holiday special that would soon premiere in millions of homes worldwide. Fans and critics alike have been quick to weigh in on the controversy. Social media posts have highlighted similarities between Cory's dishes and Meghan's show recipes, while commentators speculate about the implications for both celebrity culture and culinary ethics. Some argue that such overlap is inevitable in a fast-moving, high-pressure production environment. Others claim that the replication of unique, signature recipes crosses a line that cannot be ignored. The debate has become a cultural touchpoint, a story that touches on authenticity, creativity, and the balance of power in celebrity-led productions. The drama is compounded by Meghan's reputation for meticulous control over her projects. From her royal engagements to her Netflix series, she is known for attention to detail and brand consistency. Any perceived misstep is magnified in the public eye. For Cory, this magnification represents both risk and opportunity. The risk of public misperception, the opportunity to assert his rights and defend his creative integrity. It's a delicate dance, one where timing, evidence, and public messaging are critical. And as the premiere date approached, tensions escalated behind the scenes. Staff accounts suggest moments of visible frustration in the kitchen, where Cory's recipes, or dishes inspired by them, were being filmed without proper acknowledgement. Emails were sent, subtle reminders were made. Yet the production continued, highlighting a tension between celebrity ambition and professional ethics. For viewers, this tension may never be visible on screen, but for those involved, it was palpable. By now, the stakes are clear. This is not just a story about cookies, chocolate tarts, or holiday desserts. It's about power, influence, creative ownership, and the intersection of celebrity culture with professional integrity. Cory Vitiello, a chef who has dedicated his life to crafting memorable culinary experiences, finds himself in a collision with one of the world's most scrutinized public figures. The outcome of this collision will not only affect him, but also shape perceptions of Meghan Markle's authenticity, the credibility of Netflix's production team, and the ethics of high-profile culinary ventures. And yet, just as the drama reached a boiling point, an unexpected development occurred. A source within Meghan's production team allegedly revealed a private note, hidden from public view, that hinted at awareness of Cory's work and deliberate inspiration, or worse, replication. The note was brief, almost innocuous, yet it carried a weighty implication, that the alleged similarities were not accidental. This revelation would prove pivotal, setting the stage for confrontation, public statements, and a showdown between chef and celebrity that no one anticipated. It all started innocently enough, or so Cory Vitiello thought. In the culinary world, inspiration is everywhere. Chefs borrow techniques, swap ideas, and tweak each other's recipes. But there's a difference between inspiration and appropriation. And for Cory, the line became alarmingly clear when he first noticed strange parallels between his meticulously crafted holiday recipes and those featured in With Love, Meghan, holiday celebration. Cory's initial encounter with the issue was subtle. He had shared a seasonal recipe with a few trusted colleagues, a complex chocolate peppermint tort with layers of rich ganache and spice sponge. It was the kind of dish that requires precision, patience, and a personal touch. The recipe had been shared privately, meant only for close culinary confidants. Weeks later, a casual scroll through social media brought a jarring sight. A teaser from Meghan's holiday special featuring a dessert that looked strikingly similar to Cory's creation. The decorations, the layering, even the subtle peppermint dusting matched his version almost exactly. At first, he dismissed it. Perhaps it was coincidence. Perhaps the combination of chocolate and peppermint in holiday desserts was inevitable. But the coincidences kept piling up. Another recipe of his, a gingerbread loaf infused with orange zest and cardamom, which had taken months to perfect, appeared in a production draft for Meghan's show. This wasn't just a visual similarity. The method, the proportions, and even some unique steps were mirrored. It was uncanny. Cory began to realize that something more deliberate was happening. The realization was as thrilling as it was horrifying. Someone had access to his work, and it had crossed the boundary from inspiration into what could be perceived as outright theft. He began investigating quietly. Cory compared timestamps, notes, and versions of his recipes with what appeared in the previews and production drafts of the show. The overlaps were too specific to ignore. A particular frosting technique he had developed, something that gave his chocolate torte a distinct sheen, appeared in Meghan's special. A unique layering sequence in his spiced bread recipe was replicated almost identically. Culinary professionals often have overlapping ideas, but these matches were far beyond coincidence. Each dish, each nuance, suggested access to his personal creative output. Then came the evidence that pushed Cory from suspicion into alarm. Screenshots circulated of emails from production assistants discussing holiday recipe ideas that bore a striking resemblance to his previously shared creations. One particular note referenced a technique for tempering chocolate that Cory had developed and shared only with trusted colleagues, a process that took careful temperature control and precise timing to achieve perfect gloss and texture. Seeing it listed as an ingredient in a Netflix draft was a gut punch. His recipes weren't just being referenced, they were being used. Cory's first reaction was disbelief. How could this happen? He had been meticulous with his documentation, careful about who had access to his work. Yet here it was, appearing on a global platform, credited, if anything at all, through omission to someone else. At that moment, the stakes became painfully real. This was no longer a private or professional frustration. It was a public exposure of his intellectual labor. He reached out discreetly at first. Emails to Meghan's production team, polite but pointed, asking for clarification. Did they have permission to use his work? Had someone on set adapted his recipes without consent? Weeks went by with minimal response, or sometimes vague, non-committal replies that did nothing to resolve the concern. The silence only heightened the sense that the situation was not accidental. It felt intentional. Cory's frustration grew, mingled with disbelief, anger, and a creeping anxiety about what might happen next. Word spread quietly among Cory's network. Friends and colleagues in the culinary world began weighing in. Many were shocked. They understood the implications. In a world where reputation is everything, being associated with stolen work, or even just failing to protect your creations, can have serious consequences. They encouraged Cory to gather evidence meticulously, keep records of communications, and prepare for any potential public disclosure. Some warned that confronting someone with Meghan Markle's public profile could be risky, given her influence, media reach, and carefully managed image. But Cory was resolute. He could not let this slide. Then the tension escalated further. One of Cory's trusted associates, who had been following the situation, shared a direct comparison. His original recipe versus a segment in the show's preview. Every element, ingredient choices, sequence, and presentation, matched with remarkable precision. This visual evidence was more damning than any anecdote or speculation. It wasn't just a matter of style or coincidence, it was replication. Seeing the comparison laid out so clearly shocked Cory and galvanized him to take more direct action. Yet even as the evidence mounted, uncertainty lingered. Was this a miscommunication? A mistake by production staff? Or something more deliberate? Culinary theft is a gray area, often muddied by intent, access, and perception. Cory needed to ensure his claims were credible and defensible. Every email, every draft, every screenshot became part of a carefully documented narrative. He wanted to be prepared, not just emotionally, but professionally and legally, for the confrontation that would inevitably come. Social media added another layer of complexity. Once insiders began hinting at the similarities, fans started to notice too. Conversations emerged on Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit, comparing Cory's previously posted recipes to scenes in Meghan's upcoming special. Culinary enthusiasts dissected every detail, from frosting patterns to spice ratios, debating the originality of the dishes. The public fascination turned the private concern into a broader cultural question. When does inspiration cross the line into theft, especially when a celebrity with enormous reach is involved? At the same time, Cory remained measured. He knew that public outrage, while validating, could also backfire if not handled carefully. Missteps in tone, premature accusations, or misrepresentations could compromise his position and distract from the central issue. His work had been used without acknowledgement. The balance between defending his creative property and navigating the scrutiny of a global audience required tact, strategy, and clarity. And as the premiere date approached, the pressure intensified. Netflix had heavily promoted the holiday special, and any delay or dispute could have consequences for the production schedule, marketing campaigns, and viewer expectations. Cory's awareness of the stakes added urgency to his actions. He was dealing not only with personal and professional betrayal, but also with a high-profile platform capable of shaping public perception instantly. It was at this critical juncture that Cory decided to escalate the matter. He prepared a comprehensive presentation of evidence, screenshots, recipe comparisons, timeline documentation, and correspondence with the production team. Every detail was meticulously organized to show, beyond reasonable doubt, that his work had been used without authorization. This was not just about defending recipes. It was about asserting his creative rights in a high-stakes environment. But just as he was ready to take his case forward, a subtle twist emerged, a private message from a production assistant, seemingly innocuous but laden with implication. The note hinted at awareness of Cory's work and suggested that the similarities were intentional, or at least noticed, by someone involved in the show. It was brief, casual, yet enough to indicate that the production team could not claim ignorance. This single message would become a focal point, suggesting that the alleged duplication was not accidental but part of the decision-making behind the scenes. And that's when the full weight of the situation hit Cory. He realized that this wasn't a simple misunderstanding or a minor oversight. This was a potential scandal, poised to erupt in the public eye. What started as subtle, disquieting parallels between recipes had escalated into a high-profile dispute that could capture the attention of both media and fans alike. His next steps would be crucial, not just for protecting his intellectual property, but for asserting the value of creativity and fairness in a world where influence and celebrity often overshadow hard work. When you think about Netflix and its holiday programming, the first thing that comes to mind isn't scandal. It's cozy, festive, feel-good content designed to make viewers laugh, cry, and reach for their favorite snacks while binge-watching. But behind the polished trailers, snow-dusted sets, and perfectly timed soundtrack lies a highly calculated strategy designed to maximize engagement, subscriptions, and brand loyalty. And in the case of With Love, Meghan, holiday celebration, that strategy has intersected with a brewing scandal that few could have predicted. Netflix doesn't just produce shows, they manufacture events. Each release, particularly a holiday special, is designed as a multi-platform, multi-sensory experience that appeals to every demographic. With marketing campaigns running weeks in advance, teasers drop on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube simultaneously. Influencers are tapped to share sneak peeks. Press releases paint heartwarming pictures of stars, sharing intimate moments, and teaching viewers to recreate iconic dishes. Every detail, from set design to lighting to script cues, is carefully calculated to drive engagement. This is how Netflix ensures that even casual viewers feel a personal connection with the show. And With Love, Meghan, holiday celebration was no exception. From the very first trailer, the special promised everything a holiday viewer could hope for: luxurious desserts, intimate conversations, heartwarming anecdotes, and, of course, the charm of Meghan Markle herself. The network leaned into her persona, relatable, elegant, and warm, to frame the show as both aspirational and accessible. Every marketing asset was designed to evoke nostalgia and familial comfort. But as Cory Vitiello and insiders began noticing, the meticulously curated on-screen magic may have rested on borrowed foundations. Netflix's strategy is to minimize risk while maximizing appeal. Holiday specials are particularly high stakes. They are short-term, high-impact content aimed at driving subscriptions during peak viewing periods. Any misstep, be it a celebrity faux pas, production delay, or scandal, can threaten the carefully balanced release strategy. That's why the network's executives operate with layers of oversight: production coordinators, legal teams, creative directors, and PR strategists all collaborate to ensure that content aligns with the brand and avoids controversy. Yet, even in this highly controlled environment, the alleged recipe duplication with Cory Vitiello's creations slipped through. Or, at the very least, wasn't addressed until it became a visible problem. For Netflix, the focus on star power is critical. Meghan Markle isn't just a former duchess, she's a brand. Her involvement in any project instantly attracts attention from millions of viewers worldwide. The network knows that leveraging her persona can elevate the show, drive social media buzz, and capture attention in a crowded streaming market. But star-driven content comes with inherent risks. Any scandal or misstep by the star can reflect directly on the platform. In this instance, the alleged replication of Cory's recipes presented a dual challenge: protecting the network's investment and managing the public narrative to avoid reputational harm. Internally, sources suggest that production meetings were tense in the weeks leading up to the premiere. Executives and culinary consultants reportedly debated the originality of certain dishes, while marketing teams focused on ensuring trailers and previews highlighted the show's festive charm. According to insiders, some staff members were uneasy about the uncanny similarities between Cory's recipes and those featured in the special. These concerns, however, were either downplayed or dismissed in the rush to meet deadlines and maintain the polished narrative of the show. The tension between creative ethics and commercial imperatives became a subtle undercurrent running through the production. Another facet of Netflix's strategy is audience testing. Preview screenings, focus groups, and social media engagement analytics guide the final editing of the episodes. This means that even minor adjustments, like changing a garnish or reordering steps in a recipe, can be influenced by viewer preferences. However, when Cory's recipes appeared in the drafts and previews, it wasn't just about taste or presentation. It was about originality. Internal debates reportedly arose. Some executives argued that the audience wouldn't notice the source, while others felt it was ethically troubling and could become a public relations nightmare if exposed. The stakes were compounded by the timing of the release. December 3rd was chosen strategically to capture viewers during the holiday rush, a period when families binge holiday specials and streaming platforms compete fiercely for attention. The network relied on Meghan's established public persona, social media influence, and media coverage to generate buzz. Any public scandal, particularly one involving accusations of recipe theft, threatened to overshadow the carefully orchestrated promotion, potentially affecting engagement metrics, press coverage, and subscription retention. Cory Vitiello's growing concern intersected directly with this high-stakes strategy. His meticulously documented comparisons, screenshots, and timelines now had the potential to disrupt Netflix's marketing plans. From the perspective of production executives, this presented a dilemma: how to address Cory's claims without drawing attention away from the holiday narrative or the star's carefully curated image. In some discussions, executives reportedly contemplated quiet settlements, minor acknowledgments, or edits in post-production. But with social media amplifying insider leaks, the situation was no longer entirely within their control. The network's emphasis on visual storytelling also intensified the scrutiny. Every dish, every shot, and every festive set piece had to convey warmth, precision, and originality. When similarities to Cory's recipes were noticed, it created an invisible tension on set. According to insiders, some crew members were visibly uncomfortable, aware that the show's credibility could be questioned if viewers or culinary professionals compared the episodes to Cory's original work. In this high-pressure environment, the delicate dance between aesthetic perfection and ethical integrity became increasingly precarious. Additionally, Netflix's legal and PR teams were reportedly monitoring the situation closely. Any claim of intellectual property infringement, even in a culinary context, can carry legal ramifications, potentially resulting in public disputes, lawsuits, or reputational damage. Yet despite these risks, the production continued on its scheduled timeline, suggesting that the network prioritized the show's release and the star's public image over immediate resolution of the ethical concerns. The tension between ethics and business imperatives loomed large, creating a narrative ripe for public intrigue. Social media chatter began to pick up. Culinary enthusiasts and fans noticed peculiar overlaps in recipe techniques, garnishes, and presentation styles. Forums, blogs, and comment sections buzzed with speculation. Was Meghan's team borrowing too liberally? Could this be considered theft, or was it standard industry practice? The online community, unknowingly amplifying the issue, added fuel to a fire that was steadily growing behind the glossy surface of the production. For Cory, this was a moment of heightened anxiety and frustration. He watched as his work, crafted with care, creativity, and countless hours, was potentially being misrepresented on a global platform. Netflix's massive reach and marketing power meant that any replication could have lasting impact on his credibility and brand. Yet he also understood that a careful, measured approach was essential. Any public statement needed to be grounded in evidence and fact, not speculation or emotion. And just when it seemed that the story might remain behind the scenes until the premiere, a critical leak occurred. A crew member, concerned about the ethical implications of using Cory's recipes without acknowledgement, shared screenshots and notes with a trusted source close to the chef. The leaked material revealed the scope of the overlap, showing step-by-step comparisons between Cory's original dishes and those appearing in promotional materials for Meghan's show. It was undeniable, compelling evidence, and it brought the issue into sharp focus. Netflix's holiday strategy, meticulously planned and carefully orchestrated, was suddenly confronted with a dilemma that could no longer be contained. The balance between festive storytelling, celebrity branding, and creative integrity had tilted, and the network now faced a high-stakes problem: how to manage the narrative while maintaining the public image of both the star and the platform. And just as the production teams deliberated on their next move, the first whispers of public controversy began to surface. Social media posts hinted at behind-the-scenes drama. Fans debated the originality of the recipes, and the culinary world quietly took notice. The storm was approaching, and neither Cory, Meghan, nor Netflix could fully anticipate how explosive it would become once the premiere finally aired. By the time Cory Vitiello had gathered all of his evidence, it was impossible to ignore the scale of the situation. He wasn't just facing a minor misunderstanding or a casual coincidence. He was confronting a potential breach of his intellectual property, and the alleged offender wasn't just anyone. It was Meghan Markle, one of the most high-profile figures in the world, whose name alone commands headlines and influences social media trends globally. The stakes were staggering, and Cory knew that addressing the issue required not only courage but strategy. The first confrontation was anything but dramatic in the conventional sense. Cory began quietly, reaching out to Meghan's production team through formal channels, requesting clarification on the recipes in question. Emails were drafted with meticulous care, outlining the similarities between his dishes and those featured in the promotional material for With Love, Meghan. Holiday celebration. He included side-by-side comparisons, timestamps, and notes on unique preparation techniques, evidence that left little room for misinterpretation. At first, his attempts were met with silence. Days passed without response, and the lack of acknowledgement only intensified the stress and tension. Friends and colleagues offered their support, but also warned him of the risks. Challenging someone of Meghan's stature could attract intense scrutiny, media misrepresentation, and even potential legal pushback. Cory, however, was steadfast. His position was clear. He had invested years of creativity into his culinary craft, and seeing it replicated without credit was a violation he could not ignore. When responses did finally come, they were evasive and noncommittal. A production assistant replied with vague statements about holiday inspiration and collaborative adaptation, carefully avoiding any direct acknowledgement of Cory's work. It was a frustrating and strategic maneuver, suggesting that the team understood the gravity of the situation but aimed to defuse potential confrontation without escalating it publicly. This non-response only added to Cory's conviction that the similarities were intentional, and the problem was far from accidental. As the evidence mounted, Cory made a pivotal decision. He would escalate the matter, not through aggressive public statements or social media rants, but through a formal, professional approach that made it impossible for the production team to ignore. He arranged a meeting, a virtual call with key members of the production staff, legal representatives, and a select few intermediaries. The aim was clear: present the evidence, seek acknowledgement, and secure a resolution that recognized his creative contributions. The meeting itself was tense, punctuated by polite yet pointed exchanges. Cory methodically walked through the comparisons, highlighting unique recipe elements that were virtually identical between his creations and those presented in the show. Techniques he had developed over months of experimentation, specific frosting methods, flavor layering, and unique presentation styles were mirrored almost perfectly in the on-screen dishes. As he spoke, the production team acknowledged the similarities but insisted that the duplication was coincidental or part of standard holiday recipe adaptation. The tension in the virtual room was palpable. Cory felt a mixture of frustration, disbelief, and mounting anxiety. The evidence was undeniable, yet acknowledgement was partial at best. Word of the confrontation eventually leaked internally, creating ripples across the culinary community and entertainment circles. Colleagues who had previously only been aware of Cory's concerns began to see the tangible proof. Screenshots and side-by-side comparisons circulated among trusted networks, sparking debates about intellectual property in the culinary world. Many were stunned, not by the conflict itself, which, in high-pressure media productions, isn't unusual, but by the scale and audacity of the alleged replication. A celebrity with global reach allegedly drawing directly from a professional chef's work without acknowledgement challenged industry norms, ethics, and professional courtesy. Public awareness began to grow, albeit slowly. Social media chatter increased as culinary enthusiasts noticed familiar patterns in the recipes shared on promotional materials. Hashtags began to trend quietly, debates ignited, and fans of both Cory and Meghan voiced their opinions. Supporters of Cory praised his meticulous documentation and professionalism, while fans of Meghan argued that holiday recipes are inherently repetitive, that inspiration is inevitable, and that adaptation is part of the creative process. Yet the more the evidence was shared, the harder it became to dismiss the similarities as mere coincidence. The fallout didn't stop at public discourse. Internal tensions within the production team reportedly intensified. Staff members were divided. Some sympathized with Cory's position, expressing frustration that proper credit hadn't been given, while others worried about loyalty to the project and the star. Emails circulated, discussions happened behind closed doors, and the atmosphere on set grew increasingly fraught. Even minor decisions, such as adjustments to garnishes or tweaks to ingredients, became contentious, with each change scrutinized for its alignment to Cory's original recipes. Cory's resolve only strengthened. The emotional toll of seeing his work replicated without acknowledgement had grown, but so had his determination to defend his creative property. Friends and colleagues advised him on potential legal paths, public relations strategies, and ways to protect his reputation while avoiding sensationalism. Cory understood that any public confrontation had to be measured, factual, and backed by irrefutable evidence. In many ways, he became a strategist, not just a chef, carefully planning his next steps to assert ownership and accountability without alienating the public or undermining his professional credibility. Meanwhile, Netflix executives were quietly monitoring the situation. They recognized the risk. A public dispute between Cory and Meghan could overshadow the premiere, disrupt marketing efforts, and ignite a media storm. According to insiders, discussions were underway about how to manage the narrative without drawing unnecessary attention. Options included quiet acknowledgments in the credits, minor edits in post-production, or, in some cases, discreet settlements to resolve the issue before it reached the public domain. But the pressure was mounting. Leaks, insider communications, and growing social media chatter meant that the network's control over the story was slipping. Then came the tipping point. A social media post comparing Cory's original recipes with clips from the holiday special went viral. Fans, bloggers, and culinary experts dissected every detail, commenting on the similarities, the preparation techniques, and the presentation. The post quickly gained traction, attracting attention from mainstream media outlets, culinary magazines, and lifestyle journalists. Suddenly, the private frustration that Cory had experienced became a public narrative, framing him as a chef defending his creative integrity against a celebrity with global influence. The public fallout was immediate. News outlets began reporting on the dispute. framing it in ways that emphasize the tension between celebrity and professional expertise. Online debates escalated, with passionate arguments on both sides. Some viewers defended Meghan, citing the collaborative nature of television production, while others lauded Cory for standing up for his intellectual property. The coverage amplified the stakes, transforming a kitchen-level dispute into a story with international visibility. And then, the confrontation reached an emotional peak. Cory received a private communication from an anonymous production source suggesting that the replication of his recipes had been intentional, an attempt to ensure the dishes would appeal to viewers while maintaining a festive and polished aesthetic. The message implied that his work had been used knowingly, and that the production team had weighed the ethical implications against the perceived benefits of a familiar, reliable culinary framework. For Cory, this confirmation, though indirect, was explosive. It validated his concerns, amplified his frustration, and set the stage for a more public reckoning. The fallout didn't just impact Cory, it affected everyone involved in the production. Staff morale was strained, marketing strategies required reassessment, and executives had to consider potential reputational damage. Legal teams weighed the implications of intellectual property claims, social media trends, and public perception. And as the premiere date approached, the tension reached a crescendo. The holiday special, designed to evoke joy, warmth, and festive cheer, was now entwined with a narrative of creative betrayal, celebrity power, and professional conflict. But just as the confrontation seemed to reach its peak, an unexpected twist emerged. Leaks suggested that not only had Cory's recipes been used, but additional content from his private notes and unpublished techniques may also have influenced the production. The implications were staggering. What had begun as a concern over a few desserts had potentially escalated into a broader issue of creative appropriation. And for Cory, the next steps would determine whether he could assert ownership, protect his reputation, and demand accountability, or watch as his work became a permanent part of a high-profile show without acknowledgement. If there's one thing the modern world does better than anything else, it's amplify drama. A whisper becomes a shout, a hint becomes a headline, and a private dispute can explode into a global conversation within hours. And that's exactly what happened once the first pieces of evidence suggesting Meghan Markle had allegedly used Cory Vitiello's recipes without acknowledgement started circulating online. The storm began subtly. Food bloggers, culinary enthusiasts, and casual fans started noticing familiar patterns in the teasers and promotional clips for With Love, Meghan. Holiday celebration. A chocolate peppermint torte with a distinctive ganache swirl, a spiced gingerbread loaf with carefully measured cardamom, or a layered chocolate orange dessert, the hallmarks of Cory's creations, appeared in what was marketed as Meghan's original work. At first, posts were tentative. Viewers asked questions. Is it just me, or does that frosting look exactly like Cory Vitiello's version? Others shared screenshots side by side, highlighting similarities that were too striking to ignore. From there, the conversation gained momentum. Influencers and food writers began sharing comparisons, some with humor, some with outrage. The tone of these posts varied, a meme here, a sarcastic commentary there, but the underlying implication was clear. Fans and professionals alike were beginning to question the authenticity of Meghan's culinary contribution. On platforms like Instagram and TikTok, hashtags referencing the controversy started appearing. Hashtag RecipeGate, hashtag Cory vs. Meghan, and hashtag Holiday Scandal quickly became focal points for discussion, with viewers dissecting every ingredient, technique, and visual cue. The storm wasn't just limited to casual commentary. Culinary professionals weighed in. Some expressed shock and dismay, noting that while inspiration is part of the creative process, copying recipes without acknowledgement violates a fundamental code of ethics in the culinary world. Others emphasized the risks of public scrutiny, arguing that high-profile figures like Meghan Markle have a responsibility to ensure that credit is given where it's due. The debate was passionate, emotional, and global. Within hours, it reached the mainstream press, which picked up the story and amplified it further. Social media's impact was immediate and profound. Even casual viewers of Netflix who might not have been familiar with Cory Vitiello's work began noticing similarities. Discussion threads on Reddit exploded with speculation. Some accused Meghan of deliberate appropriation, others defended her, suggesting that holiday recipes naturally share common elements. Yet the more evidence. Screenshots, side-by-side comparisons, leaked